right. I've gone live on my laptop, and my laptop's a little old, so I think it's missing something. Like, it doesn't sync up to do lives properly. So, I'm on my phone. Yes, for technological solutions. Oh my gosh, I almost burned my finger with Palo Santo. Alright, so let me switch this. I need some Palo Santo. Alright. So I'm going to get started here in just a couple of seconds. All right, so if you have been needing to ground into some motivation, if you're truly longing to make this next year to be the year that you finally begin to materialize something that's been living in your heart for a while, then you want to listen to this. Okay, so I'm going to share, this is a raw and real, revealing story that I'm going to offer to you with 3 tips embedded into them so that you can truly find that push, that nudge, that feeling and the sensation that the universe is calling you to finally experience what you've been wanting to experience. Joanna! So here's the story. Some of you may know this story. Some of you, I know we have a good handful of people that are new in the group. And this is definitely a pivotal part of my story. So in 2016, I broke up with a boyfriend I was living with for about a year. And one day I just decided I was done, so I left and I moved into a friend's house. It was supposed to be a temporary situation. He was living in one of those renovated loft spaces, old building in Brooklyn, illegal bedroom situation. And one day I woke up with a cold, sick. I used to sleep under a beam and didn't spend much time in my room. You know, I would get up, go. But this time I was sick, so I was spending a lot of time in bed. When I woke up, I couldn't breathe. I was choking for air. I went to the emergency room, came back. They didn't really know what it was. Now, I have been experiencing asthmatic conditions. I developed asthma in 2001. After the Twin Towers fell, I used to work very close to the towers, and I was also managing a dark room, so I was inhaling a lot of chemical fumes, and coincidentally also got married that year, and it was a very stressful and traumatic situation at home. So all of those situations created asthma. I had chronic asthma, and so, you know, they were trying to treat it as asthma. Nothing was working. The albuterol nebulizer, for anyone that is familiar. And next day I ended up going back to the ER because I literally felt like I was choking for air. I couldn't breathe. And right before I went, I turned on the lights. I was still laying in my bed, and I saw behind the beam what looked suspicious. It looked like mold, but I don't know. I don't know what mold is. And I know that, you know, for a lot of people, a lot of horror stories in New York City, especially because there's so many old buildings. Took a picture, showed it to the doctor when I got to the ER. They said, you need to leave immediately because that's mold. Right, it's like a New York City thing. So I go back, pack my stuff in a suitcase. I leave. I had a cat at that point, and I left it with my friend because it was a huge loft space, and his bedroom wasn't affected. It was, I think, I don't know how big the space was, but maybe 3,000 square feet. And from December of 2016 till June of 2018, I forget how many months that was, I basically lived out of a roller suitcase. No, let me backtrack. That's not true, because I did sublet a studio in the Lower East Side towards the very end. So I had black mold exposure. I didn't know. I had no idea. For anyone that has gone through this, it's deadly, and it really affects your whole body in a myriad of ways, right? So I already had lung issues. I was waking up in cold sweats, puddles of sweat in my sheets, on my sheets. I couldn't control my body temperature. I had 3 cycles per day. I couldn't remember anything. And of course my business suffered. I couldn't even remember my phone number. So that made it really hard for me to conduct business. And it was the middle of the winter, and I'm pushing a roller suitcase through the streets of New York City. I never slept on the street. I had the good fortune of friends offering their whole places. I cat sit, I dog sat. I always joke and say I had the most luxurious homeless life, because I really did. I remember I had like my own private room in a loft in Soho with a jacuzzi. I ended up going to Bali because I wanted to stretch my money out, and I had a friend who sponsored my trip. And, my money was going to last much longer in Bali than in New York City. Somebody offered their villa, gave me the keys to their villa to stay in, because they were going to Australia for 4 weeks or something like that. So I had a very luxurious homeless life. But at the very beginning of this whole scenario, it was very difficult. And so this is what I want to tell you, is that life is going to happen. There is going to be difficult situations that are always going to occur, whether it's illness, whether it's some other kind of loss. Now, I actually happened to go through every form of loss. I lost my health, I lost my home, I lost all of my possessions, I lost my cat, and I had just previously lost the relationship. So I went through all of the losses, and then pretty much lost all of my income. I was down to $20,000 for all of 2017. From January through November, I made $20,000. That's basically poverty level income. And so I was really stripped of everything. And I gotta tell you, there's nothing like being stripped down of all your earthly possessions and what you identify with to really show you what you're made of. And I would never take it back. Because from that lowest peak, that lowest point of my life, I was able to catapult myself up to the highest peak, up to that point in my life in every way, right? So I do remember in the very beginning, just feeling like I had lost all sense of desire to live. I wasn't suicidal. You're so welcome. Wasn't suicidal, but there was just no desire. There was no oh, I'm excited about that. No, zero. I got up in the morning, I felt like a zombie. I kind of just moved through the motions, fed myself. I tried anyways, because I had a stomach ache that lasted about 3 months. And I remember one day, something kind of snapped. It was like a light bulb moment, or I don't know what came over me, because I really just felt like dying. But something woke me up one day. And I thought, I haven't asked for help. And so it was the moment of decision where I decided this ends now. I'm going to start the process of changing this situation, these circumstances. So that's my very first tip for you. If you need some motivation for next year, if you're like, I've been wanting this for so long, and it hasn't happened, and I want to create it, it's my desire, my longing, it's what I most want, is that it begins with a decision. And I decided at that moment that I was going to change the scenario, that I was going to feel alive again, even if I was living out of a roller suitcase, okay? Even if I had only made $20,000 that year. And so I just remember, this moment where I just got down on my knees and I just said, God, just tell me what to do. Tell me what to do and I will do it. That was it. That was all I said. And I have to tell you, from that moment on, I feel like I started to get memories like, oh, do this, listen to that, check this out, go here, call that person, email, go look at this. It was like I decided, right? So that's number one. You have to decide that this is the year. That's it. Just decide. Start there. Once I did that, it was like my consciousness opened to be able to then move on to the second step, which was ask for support. I asked from divine support. And from that moment on, I said, you know what? God is my divine partner in life. Then I started asking humans for support. Like, hey, do you know of anyone? And, just in that way, I was just gifted with, like I said, rooms, entire places. I think I slept on a sofa maybe twice throughout that it was about 18 months that I would say I was homeless, without a home, without an address, without a roof over my head. I lived out of my roller suitcase. And what's great about that is that I know how to travel light. I never travel with anything but a roller suitcase, doesn't matter how long I'm going to go somewhere, okay? So once I decided, then I was able to ask for the support and resources came in, right? So you want to start asking for support. You want to start looking to see, well, what resources do I have available to me? Because this is something very interesting. Sometimes we have resources at our disposal. Like maybe we join a program, maybe we do, I know that I often do events and I usually include, it depends on what the event is, I'll include like a one-on-one call. Do you know some people never take me up on the call? And it's not a sales call. It's like, hey, I'm here, let's discuss whatever you got from the event. How can I support you further, right? Just like really start asking yourself, are there resources I'm not utilizing? Are there resources that are just sitting around that I'm not making use of that could help me? And people are resources too. Are there people in my networks and my communities that I could be reaching out to, that I could just even to ask, hey, do you know where I might be able to find this or connect with that? Or, this is part of, and this doesn't mean that you have to know the solution, because I think that that's the problem that so many of us fall into, is that if I'm going to say I'm going to do something, then I need to know how I'm going to do it. Like, I need to know all the steps, but really all you need is just steps like step one. And step one will open up into step two. And it's like you just have to stay committed to what you are deciding. Because let me tell you, circumstances can change in a moment. Do you think that I thought that I was going to be living out of a roller suitcase from literally overnight? No. And I literally made 6 figures kind of like overnight, right? So December of 2017, I had $20,000 made in the 11 previous months. Rewind back to 2 months before that, October of 2017, I had already been through this journey for a while, and I decided that I was going to work with a mentor. And I was just searching to see who would be like the right person. I found the right person. She was $20,000. I didn't have $20,000, I had maybe maybe like $3,000. That's it, to my name. I didn't have a roof over my head. I didn't have nothing else. I was holding on to this to, in my mind, I was like, well, I'm going to get an apartment. But how was I going to get an apartment where I didn't even have the sustainable way to keep paying for it, right? So I just knew when I found the person I wanted to work with, and I knew that that was the person, I took a risk. And that's step number 3 and tip number 3 for you. If you really need some motivation to create what you want to create in 2023, then it's going to require that you take a risk, that you leap into your future. You know, it's like you gotta just, like, if what you want feels like it's living up in the stars, then fly, my friend. You know, like, let yourself fly. Take that leap. And I knew that if I said yes, if I committed, that I was going to figure it out. Come December, so 2 months after I hired her, December of 2017, I had my first, is that 6 figures? I made $20,000 in December of 2017. I made everything that I had made in the previous 11 months that month of December of 2017, and that was the beginning of creating my first 6-figure year in business the following year of 2018. And it would have never been possible had I not made the decision that I was done suffering, and that even though I didn't know the answer, that I certainly knew that God, creator, life, whatever resonates for you, that the answer was out there. I knew that there was an answer and there was a solution and there was a way out. And I was deciding that it was time for me to go get out of the circumstances I was in. So see, circumstances don't matter. So if you're holding yourself back in some shape, way, or form by giving yourself some access to a resource, maybe to a coach, a mentor, a program, because of money, that's a terrible reason. It's not even an excuse. Sorry, I have to say it. You know, this comes from someone who made a crazy investment when I didn't have a roof over my head. Now, I'm not saying take out a mortgage, a second mortgage on your house. I think that we really have to ground in when we're making these risky, when we're taking risky chances, right? And I think it really just depends on trusting your intuition. And, you know, I also wasn't putting anybody else. It was my personal decision. I wasn't putting anybody else at risk with my decision. You know, it was completely just independent and sovereign, making decisions for myself. And that, honestly, one of the reasons that I do enjoy and appreciate being a single woman without children, because I know it gets a little more complicated. But what I want to say to you is this, is that this world is shifting and changing faster than we know. And that if you have a longing, if you have a desire, if you have a vision, like if you've gone as far as like you see yourself doing certain things, helping people, having a certain business, traveling somewhere, creating a certain life, then it's like your duty. It's your duty to allow yourself to realize the vision. And it starts with a decision. And then it moves into you asking for some support, using your resources, and then allowing yourself to take that leap of faith and that risk. So that's what I got for you. And if you're like, I want to start planning my next year, I'm down. Tell me what to do and I'll do it. Then you should come on Friday. If you don't know by now, I don't know where you've been, but I've been sharing this Friday coming up, December 30th at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard. I am recording it, by the way. I am leading Plan for Prosperity. It is an event like no other. I am so freaking excited. I'm going to show you how to plan your most prosperous, your most successful year yet with your own very unique plan based off of your numerology, your astrology, and your intuition. So scroll on the wall, get in there. There's a private Facebook group. It's open. You're going to get coaching in the group before and after the event. And it's just going to be so much fun. So again, that's for you. If you're like, I need some guidance, I need to know how do I start putting this together, come hang out with me. I am a master planner, by the way, Virgo sun. And I will show you how to create a plan that's going to flow with your energy, because it really is coming from the energy that's already encoded within you. So, any questions, drop them below. Check the wall, get inside the event. If you're on the replay, let me know. And I'm so excited to hang out with you in 2023. Thank you so much for being a part of my community and for being here in this group. Bye.